Filipino resilience is the reason bad workplaces never die. And Gen Z is finally saying, screw that. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're playing some Stray again. You know, there's something poetic about watching this little cat exploring and making sense of a broken, decaying system built by people who didn't know what they were doing. Because that's exactly what dealing with the Filipino corporate world feels like today. Let's just get the main truth out of the way for the algorithm right now. Our God algorithm. Filipino resilience keeps bad workplaces alive because when workers absorb understaffing, unpaid overtime without complaining, and include there as well untrained or even the trained but incompetent managers, the company never has to spend money fixing any of it. We romanticize quote-unquote Filipino resilience so much that we completely forgot how to hold incompetent leaders accountable. And the workplace is suffering for it. Somewhere in a pitch deck right now, someone typed the words resilient Filipino workforce, and a foreign company read that line and smiled, and maybe rubbing their palms too, because they know exactly what they are buying. They are buying how much you can take. Resilience is a virtue, sure, but when companies start budgeting around your resilience instead of fixing their fundamental problems, it stops being a virtue, man. It starts becoming a business model. We've got this deeply ingrained religious martyr syndrome where we subconsciously think the man upstairs is going to give us bonus points for suffering in silence. So we offer up our sanity on the altar of the 9 to 5. Sometimes, to be honest, I look at the Filipino office culture and I swear it's just non-consensual corporate BDSM. They stretch your limits and inflict pain, but there's no safe word, no aftercare, and HR just calls it quote-unquote building character. Now, can you imagine praising someone for surviving a burning building instead of, I don't know, putting out the fire? If someone at work has ever called you resilient, I want you to stop and look at what happened right before they said it. Something broke, nobody fixed it, and you carried it anyway. Then, they handed you a word instead of a solution. Nobody calls it resilience while it's actually happening. It gets named afterward, usually by whoever benefited from your stress. Every time someone says, Filipinos are so resilient, a bad boss somewhere smiles. Filipinos got so good at surviving bad conditions that nobody feels the need to improve them, to improve the conditions. You know, that month you were basically doing 2 jobs because someone quit and they froze hiring? Yeah, the company saved an entire salary and called you a team player. Nice. Good job. Kudos. Your company doesn't need to fix the process while you're still willing to be the process. LeBron James right now trusting the process. I don't know why I said that. So what is your resilience actually paying for? It's paying for mediocre management. We call it resilience. I call it the reason mediocre managers still have jobs. If your boss says, we are family here, boy, you better run. Run! It's just corporate code for we will exploit your boundaries and expect you to be grateful. You were the shock absorber, so the system never had to stop breaking. Stop bragging about being quote-unquote resilient. All you're doing is showing bad management that they can keep abusing you and you'll just smile through it. Smile. Resilience without boundaries is just self-harm with better PR. This brings me to the younger crowd. Millennials normalized the hustle culture, and we got completely burned out. And now, Gen Z has to be the ones to fix the toxic Filipino workplace. They trained us to say, kaya pa. Kaya mukat. So Gen Z is answering with, bakit ako pa? And look, there's recent data to back this up. This isn't just some ex-corporate rentahin unk yelling at the sky. Although, that's also true. Listen to this. According to the Workplace Happiness Index, Philippines 2025, released by JobStreet, nearly 4 in 10 Filipino Gen Z workers, that's 39%, often dread going to work. Side tangent, I actually got my first job via JobStreet. So the survey found that they are the least happy and most stressed generation in the Philippine workforce today. Least happy and most stressed. So they reported higher levels of stress and emotional exhaustion compared to millennials and Gen X. High cortisol, sheesh, not good for the health. I mean, what's good for our health here in the Philippines? That is in good supply nowadays anyway. And before the older generation calls them soft, remember this. 76% of those Gen Z workers said they actually find meaning and purpose in their jobs. So basically, they don't hate the work, but they hate the workplace. Not the work, the workplace. They praise us Filipinos for being resilient while they underpay us and overworking us and call it culture. Quote unquote culture. And here comes the Gen Z who just stopped clapping because they recognize that we're just capping. So why do older Filipino workers get angry about this? Boomers and some older Gen Xers think Gen Z is lazy for not wanting to work 60-hour work weeks. Even some older millennials say that as well, which is crazy. No, man, the Gen Z is just realizing that the corporate ladder is a hamster wheel and they're refusing to run. Older generation survived by enduring. The new generation survives by leaving. And that anger has something underneath it. Listen closer the next time it comes at you. Those guys already pay the full price. The weekends they gave up, the health that never fully came back, the hair they've lost. Ask me how I know. Then somebody comes along and says it was optional. That doesn't feel like progress to them. It feels like their whole life gets called a mistake. So go easy on your, parents, unks, and your aunties about this one. They weren't stupid. It's just that nobody ever offered them a different deal, different options. Big thing we have now is optionality, right? In careers, in dating, and all the stuff right now. And the people running these companies don't get that same grace, okay? You can cut your parents some slack, your relatives, but these people that's running the companies, they don't get that same grace. They know what they're doing. They know it. You always hear management complaining about how nobody wants to work anymore. I think they've got it backwards. Filipinos are the most loyal workers I have ever seen. OFWs all over the world might just prove that. Although I have my thoughts on that OFW thing. I believe I covered that in my previous video. Although there's a lot of layers that still need to be unpacked. But yeah. We will stay in a job that is actively making us sick and then defend that company to our friends. The bosses never actually had to earn our respect. Management never had to work for our loyalty. We just gave it to them. The people in charge never had to earn it. And these kids aren't quitting the job. Half of them like the job. They're quitting the way they get treated while doing it, which is a completely different thing. And if they're not rage quitting, there's quiet quitting, which is a term that you're probably all familiar by now. Yeah, older generations call it quiet quitting, but Gen Z probably calls it acting your wage. Although my younger self also had this mantra, especially when I'm being, the typical, it's crunch time, so your workload doubles or sometimes triples, but the salary remains the same. Whenever I get the chance, if it's not a deadline or whatever, I act my wage. Quiet quitting is just what happens when you finally stop being free labor for a broken system. Why does, quote unquote, at least you have a job end every complaint? Because bad bosses survive on Filipino guilt. Period. You know what keeps Filipino offices alive? That freaking famous resilience again. The same exact thing that younger workers are finally refusing to give away for free. But whenever someone speaks up about burnout, the immediate response from older relatives or co-workers is always, well, at least you have a job. Be thankful. Boy, that is a trap. And that's just some corporate cope, man. I remember a perfect attendance award, like a receipt for every sick day you were too scared to take. We keep wearing that resilience badge like it's some kind of a superpower, but honestly, man, it's exactly what's keeping us stuck in this toxic loop. Okay, so how do you push back if you cannot afford to quit? At least in the near future. Look, I get it. Pushing back is easy when you can afford to lose. And the harsh reality is that most Filipinos can't. You've got bills, maybe a family to feed. And even me, I'm child free. But it took me a while to escape the corporate world. And like I said in my, I don't know what video, but one of my previous videos, I'm really hoping that I don't jinx it and end up in a position where I'm forced to go back to corporate. But yeah, I hope not. Even if you're child free or a dink, dual income, no kids, if you have a partner and you guys are deciding proactively not to have kids, like it's an intentional decision not to have kids, you might be a breadwinner supporting your siblings or sometimes maybe even your cousins. Brutal. You can't just throw a resignation letter on your boss's desk tomorrow. So what do? If you're the one at work who always gets asked because you are the one who never says no and the reward keeps arriving as a compliment instead of a raise, then somebody has been running a very old play on you. So you start by setting quiet, firm boundaries. Boundaries, man. Because the thing about Filipinos is we have this hiya. Like, in Bisaya, may kugun ba? May kugun. Because, I don't know, what's that Bible quote about the meek will inherit the earth? Something like that. Meek. What's that term before that was trending for millennials? Demure? I don't know if that applies here, but something like that. So yeah, set firm boundaries, man. I know it's hard, easier said than done. It took me a while. It's so hard to do that when you're just an upstart, but practice it like a muscle. Stop volunteering for the stuff outside of your job description. Log off on the dot. If it makes you comfortable, maybe 5 minutes. I don't know. Start cleaning your workstation a couple of minutes before your shift ends. You don't really see people out there marching with picket signs over bad management these days. That's a problem. If a company's trash, young workers are just quietly dropping their 2 weeks notice on HR's desk and moving on with their lives. That's a good thing about this young generation, the balls. I respect that shit. I wish I had that courage when I was younger. Better late than never, right? But until you can write that letter, you have to protect your peace. They love our resilience. They hate our boundaries. So start giving them boundaries, firm boundaries. It comes a long way. Trust me, it will come a long way for your mental health. Remember, guys, our body, our mind, at the end of the day, these are all we have. And these are my thoughts on this topic for now. Let me know in the comments, what's the most toxic resilience moment you've experienced in the Filipino workplace? And while you're at it, if you have the time, maybe state your age, your work experience, your job. It'll help everyone. I believe we have younger demographic here who's really curious about getting the pulse of what's happening in the the workplace before they transfer to another job. And then we have unks like me here, or unks of an unks, that could really help me share what do I call this? My English is running out, man. I need to sleep. What do you call this? Share some insights on how to navigate workplaces. Of course, there's a little bit of generational gap, but I believe there are still some timeless, evergreen advice that everyone can use. And also, I rarely do this anymore. As a writer at heart, I treat these videos like some kind of essays, video essays, and asking for clicks at the very end just completely ruins the landing. The final punch of the art, if I may say so. But if you found value here, please hit the like button and share your thoughts and experiences on this topic discussed with everyone. And let me tell you why this actually matters, guys. YouTube doesn't push this video to everyone. The algorithm, even the YouTube employees themselves don't know what's exactly happening with their AI tool. I believe it detects who's liking these videos, who's commenting, who's finishing the videos, and it tries to understand the semantics of the discussion. So it analyzes. So it's telling YouTube who's the next guy to show this specific video. Maybe some 23-year-old guy that's a newbie in a call center agent, or some corporate trentahin that wants to quit the corporate job and try the VA space. I don't know. You engaging with the video is how he finds it. And last thing, we may never cross paths again if this is your first time watching a video from Uncle Ren. So if any of this hits, please subscribe. That way you don't lose me. And to those who never fail to watch and engage in these videos, man, I appreciate you a lot, brothers and sisters. You all are the backbone of this channel. Wish I could repay y'all, but I'm also barely earning on this channel. Being quote-unquote monetized doesn't equate to I'm earning a good living. So how I repay you is giving you some sort of value in these videos, whether these are lessons or probably just reminders, because these ideas are, I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants, if you say so. Some of these aren't new, and most of you are smarter and more articulate than me, man. And for some of you, maybe just some comfort or being seen, or maybe some odd form of entertainment. I don't know. That said, it's good to have you guys here in this little weird corner of the internet. You guys have a good day. Stay sharp. Mentally, physically. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.